I'm getting surgery. It's on the intestines and the colon. They're basically gonna take a chunk out and sew it back together. It's a robotic ileocecal resection. I'm supposed to be in the hospital for 5 days. And there was a freaking hole in my intestine. They said to me, just so you know, by the way, we had to give you a colostomy bag. The surgery obviously did not go as planned. I was laying on my back and literally there was a fucking fountain of shit pouring, like liquid shit. So I'll just show you what it looks like right now. Hey guys, I'm home. Oh my god, I'm so happy. Today is Tuesday, the 5th of October, which is 2 weeks after my surgery exactly, and 1 week exactly from after I left the hospital. So I'm gonna do my best to take you through day by day what I was going through and how I was feeling and what the experience was. I really was planning on filming more in the hospital, but I just felt like literal shit and I didn't feel like it. I just remember the day of surgery being so weird. Like, I was on a bed. Brian was with me for that. They put an IV right there. I was in sort of like a waiting area of like people in beds, but I couldn't like see them. I just knew they were there. I think there was like curtains or walls or something between me and like the other patients. They put these like things around my legs. You know how like when you get your blood pressure taken, it's like a thing that they wrap around you and it like pumps? It's like that exact same thing for your calf. So like on your entire calf, there's like a big long thing that they wrap around the whole thing, and it does that like squeezing motion, but it wasn't detecting anything or measuring anything. It's just to like keep your blood flowing to prevent like clots and stuff. And they also put like an oxygen thing on my finger, just like a little sticker that's attached to a cord. And they also put an actual thing on my arm for my blood pressure. And they put all that stuff there so that when I went into the operating room, all of it was just gonna be ready for the surgeon. Brian and I hung out for a while. I made a group chat of all the people that I wanted to update, and I was just enjoying my last moments of being a capable person without scars and pain and recovery and whatever the fuck. So after a while, my surgeon came up to my bed. She like didn't even say hi or anything. She just started talking really, really fast. She's like, okay, here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna take you back. And I was like, whoa, oh my god, I was not ready. So Brian was escorted and I was pulled away because my bed was on wheels. I was pushed to the operating room, which was kind of cold, and they helped move me onto a different bed. Question mark? Maybe it wasn't a bed, maybe it was just a table. But they moved me over. I had a lot of people talking to me at the same time, telling me like what was gonna happen. I wasn't worried about it. For some reason, surgery doesn't scare me. It's just the thought of my life after the surgery that scares me, not actually being put to sleep or what's going to happen while I'm asleep. It's just like having to exist when I wake up. I'm pretty sure they just put something through the IV that put me to sleep. And I don't remember anything after that. I was so drugged up that day that I was like not there. Like I barely remember anything. Like I don't even know if this really happened or not. I have the most faint memory of waking up a little bit and then being in like this room that I never saw again. I swear to God, I woke up in this room, fell back asleep, and woke up in my like regular room that I was in for the rest of the week. But I swear to God, for a split second, I was in a different room that I have no recollection of now. I don't know what it looked like. Here's what's crazy, literally crazy. Once I was awake enough to talk and understand, they said to me, just so you know, by the way, we had to give you a colostomy bag. So that kind of caught me off guard. I was like, but I was so fucking out of it. I was like, okay, cool, like whatever. Oh my god, is it not? Whatever. Long story short, the surgery obviously did not go as planned. I guess they went in there expecting to see only a little bit of damage and it was gonna be like an easy, quick fix. But since it had been almost a year since they had seen anything of my insides, they didn't really know what it was gonna look like, and it was a lot worse than they were anticipating. anticipating. There was a lot of inflammation, there was a lot of scar tissue, and there was a freaking hole in my intestine. And what's crazy is that's not even the first time that's happened to me. That actually happened one other time that I know of anyway, when I was like 14. That's how they diagnosed me, because there was a big tumor-like thing in my abdomen, and I pressed on it and I felt something in there, and it turned out to be a big fucking hardened glob of food that had leaked out into my body. So this time I caught it a lot sooner. So during the surgery, they sewed up the hole, they removed the damaged areas, the scar tissue, and plan A, what they were supposed to do, was just sew the two ends of my intestines back together, but my surgeon decided this is kind of an emergency, like you're kind of in really bad condition, we need to do a plan B, which was a colostomy bag. Different people were telling me different things about this, so I don't know exactly what is true, but the easiest way for me to explain it to you is that there's a long cord of intestines. The middle part was damaged, so they took that chunk out, and then they were left with two disconnected ends. So instead of putting them back together, they sewed off one end and pushed the other end through my belly. So now all food goes into my mouth, down into my stomach, through my small intestine, and instead of moving into my large intestine, it goes straight out into the colostomy bag. It poops itself right out, and I have a pouch on my belly, and it's gross, but yeah, it is what it is. That's what needs to happen in order for my large intestine to heal, which is severely inflamed right now. So the reason they gave me the bag was so that nothing would come in contact with the large intestine for a while. Like, it needs to completely heal without it being active, I guess. But I was completely unconscious when all of these decisions were made. I woke up with a bunch of surprises. That's been quite an adjustment. I was told that I was supposed to have it for 2 months, so it's just temporary. I'll get used to it. I need to learn a bunch of things about it, and then but what sucks about that is that that means that there's a second surgery that I need to get. So one surgery just turned into 2 surgeries. For the second surgery, which is going to happen after the 2 months of having the bag, they're gonna remove the bag and sew me back together, like basically just finishing what they started. And then I'm gonna have to recover from that surgery, and what sucks is pretty much right by the time I recover from the surgery I just had, I'm gonna go into that second surgery. I don't know how long I'm gonna be out of work. I was anticipating up to maybe a month, but this surgery that I just went through was a lot harder on my body than the one that we were planning on doing. While I was under, they had to do 2 different things. So they did the resection, but they also did like a ileostomy something. The difference between an ileostomy and a colostomy is the ileostomy is the small intestine that's involved, and then the colostomy is the colon or large intestine. So I always call this a colostomy bag, but technically it's an ileostomy bag. It's confusing, but I'm getting used to it. So anyway, I had the same 2 nurses like back and forth, just switching the 12-hour shifts, probably for like 4 days. Both of them were amazing. I love them so much. They literally made everything so much better. They asked me every day, multiple times a day, what is your pain level? And I'm pretty damn sure that I said 0 on day 1. Like, they had me drugged so much that I could not feel anything. And I remember being so, maybe not lazy, but just low energy. Like, I didn't even want to move my head. I had no appetite, no interest in eating. They kept bringing me meals. I kept not even touching them. I think I didn't eat for maybe like 2 or 3 days because I just literally didn't want anything. Like, nothing sounded good. I was drinking water though. But I just remember being so upset on that first night, and Bree, shout out to Bree, my favorite nurse, who was one of the 2 that was alternating for the first 4 days. Oh my god, I remember now, I was naked. I literally refused to wear clothes. Yeah. So like, for the first day, for Bree's entire 12-hour shift, I literally was like butt naked. Literally. Most of the other time, like after that, I wore underwear, but I was not even wearing underwear because I forgot they had a catheter in me. Like, I was hooked up to a million bajillion things and I just fucking refused. I was like, I am so uncomfortable, get this gown off of me. And I was so gone, I didn't care. Like, normally, I mean, I'm really insecure about my body and I don't want anybody to look at me ever. I'm just like, I remember like in school, like for gym or whatever, we had like a swimming unit in high school and I would always like try to like hide in the corner or change in the stall. Like, I don't like people looking at me naked. It's not a fun time, even if everybody else is naked. But this time I was the only one who was naked. And I was chilling. Like, I had zero issues. So going into it, like I said, I had the IV, I had the things on my legs, I had the oxygen tape on my finger, and I had the blood pressure thing on my arm. So when I woke up, I had an oxygen thing on my face. I forgot about that. They put a catheter in me too, which if you don't know is like a tube that they put up my pee hole so that, you know, I don't have control over my pee. It just comes out and it collects into whatever it collects into. And I also woke up with a drain tube straight into my belly. So gross. And it was on this long cord and at the end was like almost like a squeezy, rubbery, just like ball filled with liquid, which was coming from my body. So there was like just a lot of stuff happening. I remember counting 9 things that I was hooked up to. So anyway, I was horribly uncomfortable. There was cords all over me, getting all tangled up. I felt like I couldn't move, and that's probably when I decided to be naked. Bree, my favorite nurse, she was the night shift. So I think I went into surgery at sometime in the morning, 10? I don't know. But Bree didn't get there until 7. So I know that it wasn't until after 7 that I literally had like a breakdown. I was sobbing to her, still drugged, and she was so sweet. She was like, girl, it's okay to be uncomfortable and to be upset. You were not ready for this. There were a lot of unexpected things that happened to you today. Your body went through so much trauma. You got this, like, you're gonna get through this. And it was like, oh my god, I could not stop crying. I don't know why I was so upset. Probably just because it was fucking traumatizing, and I don't know, I was probably in pain and discomfort. You know what it was? I had a few breakdowns actually, and it was because my back was hurting because I have scoliosis. Laying in that hospital bed hurt my back so bad. Changing positions was terrible with all of the things that were like attached to me because there was a cord on everything. There was a cord on each of my legs. There was a cord coming out of my pee hole. There was a cord on my arm, you know, cord on my finger, cord on my blood pressure, cord on my face. Like, I couldn't move without everything tugging and like getting tangled, and it was horrible. So my back was hurting so bad, and I tried to move to like readjust, and it was like the most excruciating thing ever. So I pressed my like call button and I was just like sobbing because I couldn't, like, something was behind my back, I think. Like, I was laying on something really uncomfortable and I couldn't like go back to my original position. So I was using all my strength to hold my body up in a really awkward sideways. Yeah, it was just, I was a mess. That happened like a few times within the first few days. And then Bree was like, I think it was Bree. She said, you know what, girl, you're fine. Let's take some of this stuff off you. You probably don't need it. So she took off my oxygen thing and she took off my leg squeezers, and that felt so great. Just having those 3 things off of me felt so good. That stuff is like for old people. Like, she knew that I was in good enough health that I wasn't like on the verge of fucking dying or anything. So I felt a lot better after that. And then I guess 7 a.m. rolled around and she left, and the second nurse named Brian came in, and she told me, she was like, just so you know, you're about to have a male nurse. You might want to put some clothes on. And I was like, oh, I really don't want to, but like, I guess. So I put on my gown, and then after that, for the whole rest of the 7 days or whatever was left in the hospital, my gown stayed on. I did not like it, but it was fine. So they switched out, and I really liked Brian too. He was really funny, very sarcastic, just like me. We got along well. Yeah, literally from day one with Brian, he was messing with me about like, oh yeah, we're gonna have to put an IV in your neck, and like this place is haunted. And I'm such a gullible person that I like believed him every time he said something. Oh my god, it was driving me crazy. And I literally kept calling him out. I was like, you're lying, you're fucking lying. And he was like, no, I'm dead serious. And I believed him because I'm stupid. So anyway, what ended up happening was within the first few days of having this IV, it got messed up somehow. I don't remember how we found out. I think what happened is that obviously like they had me hooked up to saline and fluids and painkillers and all this stuff going into the IV. And I think it just started stinging really, really, really bad. Like when any fluid would go inside, it fucking hurt. Like it felt like electrical shocks. So that's how they know that the IV is bad or like not in there anymore or something like that. So they were like, okay, well, we're gonna have to take this IV out and put a new one somewhere else. And this was when Brian was on the shift. And literally, like, I loved this IV. Like, this was the most ideal spot for me to have one. This was, like, so traumatizing. This was such a hard day. This was probably the second or third day that I was there. Maybe the third day. So what they did was, after taking this one out, they obviously needed to put a new one in. So they were looking at my veins, which makes me cringe so much. Like they put the rubber band and they're tapping my skin and shit, and it's so gross and I hate it. Oh my god. But they were doing that and they're like, oh, I can't really find anything. And I was like, oh my god. They said they were going to try to put one in my hand, and I was like, please no, that sounds awful. I want it in my arm. So they were like, okay, well, I guess we'll have to look in other places. And oh my god, this was like the most scariest, most cringiest thing. The location that they chose to put it, trigger warning, was literally in the worst possible place that I could have ever imagined that they would put it. And I was like, you can't be serious. Do you really think that this is a good idea? Like, I can't imagine this working on anybody. I'm cringing so hard right now. But I'm about to show you where they tried to put it. So you know those 3 veins that are visible here? They tried to put an IV right there. I think the bruise is mostly gone. I don't know if you can see any like discoloration. I mean, I can see it in this light. You probably just can't. I don't know. So it hurt so bad. Oh my god. I was laying there with my arm like this. Oh, that was the absolute worst thing. And I was literally screaming in pain, and they didn't even get it in. So literally all of that was for nothing. And at this point, I was so freaked out. I was in so much pain. My heart rate was so high. I was having a horrible time. I was so anxious. So they put a big bandage right here after they messed up my wrist. And you can still see like the tape residue because it just won't come off. What did they do after that? I think they gave me one in my hand. I think they finally said, you know what, this isn't gonna work. Like, we have to go in your hand, I'm sorry. That's what that is from. So that stayed in my hand until the day I left, or the night before I went home. And just when I thought it was over, they were like, well, like right after they got the thing in and got it taped down and it was all good to go, they're like, just so you know, like the hand ones don't really last that long. Like this one will probably get messed up too. So we're gonna get you a backup one. And I'm like, so I'm gonna have 2 IVs. Like, why did you even give me this? They told me that they were gonna call the PICC line specialist. I think I explained to you actually what a PICC line was at the beginning of this video. And I explained that I had one before, and it's just like a very long, permanent, painful IV. I freaked out when they said that. I was like, no, don't you dare give me a PICC line. And they're like, no, it's not gonna be a PICC line. It's just that those guys are the best at doing IVs, and they have better equipment, and they can see where your veins are with like an ultrasound or whatever they use. So we're just gonna get them to do a regular IV on you since you're a hard stick. So they said that the PICC line people leave leave, I think, at 4 p.m. or something, which was a few hours away. So I was just waiting in anticipation for those few hours, like, oh my god, are they gonna come and give me another IV? Like, I was just freaking out about it. And I think 4 o'clock passed, and they ended up coming anyway after that, just when I thought that I got off the hook. This is where they put it, right where that thing is. This was the most bizarre experience. Like, after going through all these painful pokes and IVs and attempts and fails and whatever to get an IV in, they did it in such a way that I almost didn't feel anything. They literally put an IV in my arm and it didn't hurt. I didn't even know that was possible. Like, it was less painful than a shot. Like, maybe like somebody, like a scratch, or like somebody poking you with a nail, maybe. And I was like, wait, it's in? And then I felt them push it in, because they have to push it in like an inch or a centimeter or whatever, however far it has to go in. And I felt them pushing it up, but zero pain, just a little bit of pressure. I was so mind blown. I was like, that is insane. I don't know how you just did that, but thank you. So I was worried about that for like nothing. But they left both IVs on me. So I had one big contraption sticker thing here, and also another contraption on my hand. The hand one was so uncomfortable. Like, I couldn't do this. Anytime I moved, like, there was a cord dangling from my hand. So it felt like I was yanking it, and I hated it. I refused to use this hand for the whole week. Anyway, after that was all settled, I just had both of these IVs for the rest of the week. I remember, I actually don't remember. I'm having a very hard time remembering like what each day represented. Day 1 was just me being drugged up and not being in any pain and being naked. Maybe day 3 I was really lightheaded and I was having issues with like dehydration, and that's what the ileostomy does, unfortunately. It's hard to explain, but I think the large intestine is supposed to sort of digest water and fluids and electrolytes and stuff, but since my large intestine is disconnected right now, I think that is why dehydration is common, like with an ileostomy, because you sort of miss out on all of that extra absorption that's supposed to be happening. So I just know that with an ileostomy bag, you need to drink a lot more water than you normally would. So I stood up to go to the bathroom. I guess my catheter was out at this point, and I had to run back to my bed. Like, I literally was about to pass out after being up for like maybe 10 seconds. So I ran back to my bed. I felt nauseous and dizzy, and I was like, oh my god, literally what is going on? And it was just dehydration, like probably from this and not drinking enough water and probably not eating. I think they took the catheter out on maybe the second day or the second night. So that means that I really didn't get out of bed like at all for probably the first 2 days, because there was no reason to get up. If I didn't have to get up to go to the bathroom, then like, why get up? You know what I mean? There was like a physical therapist. He said that I need to get up and walk around multiple times a day so that I don't turn into a vegetable. When they were talking about taking my catheter out though, I was like, no, I love it. Please leave it in, because I loved not having to get up to go pee. The thought of getting up out of bed was so uncomfortable, and the catheter didn't hurt at all. Like, it was just chilling there. I couldn't even feel it. I think I could low-key tell when the pee was coming out. It didn't feel like peeing, but it felt like I had to pee, and then maybe it felt like I didn't have to pee anymore. But I really liked it. It was so convenient. I don't know. I remember them taking it out, and I was really nervous for that. It felt like taking out a tampon, but out of the other hole, but not as big. Sorry if this is TMI. I feel bad for the boys watching this. I want to say trigger warning, but I feel like this entire video is a trigger warning. Like, you should know by now that like, I'm just gonna like talk about it. So they explained to me the way that they get a catheter to stay in. I don't know if it's like a filled balloon, like with water or air or what, but there is a balloon on the end. I guess it must be air, which sounds scary. I don't know, don't quote me on this. But there's definitely a balloon at the end of the tube. And when they put the catheter in you, which they did when I was asleep, the balloon is deflated. And then once it's inside of you, they inflate it so that like it can't come out. You know what I mean? And then right before they take it out, they deflate it. So it literally felt like they were pulling a deflated balloon out of my pee hole. But after that, I had to get up to pee, and that was a very sad day. I think what sucked the most about being in the hospital though was that no visitors were allowed because of COVID. Just being there in pain and uncomfortable and nervous, anxious, like all the things, with no one there to support me besides my nurses who just made their rounds, you know? It's not like they were in my room 24/7. Like they just checked up on me every once in a while. It was hard, it was lonely, it was scary. And then I had a nurse who specializes in ostomy care come in, and she started to be like, okay, we need to change your bag, and I have to show you how to do it, and you're gonna hold up this mirror and you're gonna watch me take off this whole contraption and dress it and put it back on, and you're gonna have to do this like twice a week. So I'll just show you what it looks like right now. I'm gonna show you my whole belly area. So this is the bag. Yeah, it's so gross. That's like literally, that red thing is my intestines. Like literally, like that's the end of my intestine, and that's where stuff comes out and it goes into this bag. This piece of tape is where the drain was that they took out. And then this is one of the incisions. The two other incisions are down here. Here's one. And then the other one is right there. It looks a lot better. It's not nearly as bruised as it was before. And no pain when I press on that bottom one, but like there is hardness on actually both the bottom one and the one on like the middle. It's very weird. I think that like after incisions are made, scar tissue forms, and I think that's what I'm feeling. Like I'm pressing down on my skin, and instead of it being like a fucking like fat belly feeling, it's like a hard, this one doesn't really have that. Well, maybe a little bit. I can't tell if I'm pushing down on like glue or something like in my body, if that makes sense. Like I can't tell if the hardness is coming from the surface or underneath. But there's really no pain when I push on any of them. So while I was in the hospital, I was having a lot of pain, like in all the places. My incision, this top one was hurting. The drain thing was hurting. The bag, whole area was hurting a lot. My IVs were hurting, everything was hurting. Now I'm not really in pain anymore. Nothing really hurts except it's very tender in this area where the bag is. Like if you press down, I don't even want to say it's sore. It's just very tender, and it's also hard to tell what I'm feeling. Like the same thing with the hardness. I can't tell if the pain or tenderness that I'm feeling is on the surface of my skin where the actual rupture was made, or if I'm feeling the literal organs in my body under the surface that were just operated on. You know what I mean? Inside and out, this whole area sucks. And what is so crazy about that is that this is my #1 problem spot, and that wasn't even supposed to happen with the original surgery. So if everything went as planned and they didn't give me this bag, I would be like literally fine right now, like recovered from my surgery already. Because the little incisions that they made that were supposed to be like the biggest deal, which ended up being a lot smaller actually than I anticipated, are literally fine. Like no problem. I mean, I'm sure my insides would have been a little sore still from being disassembled or whatever, but they feel fine right now, and they definitely were going to be in less pain than they are right now, because this surgery was a lot more complicated than it should have been. But anyway, I think on the 4th day in the hospital, both of my favorite nurses left me, and I was really sad. At that point, I was already starting to get up and walk around a little bit, because if I didn't, I mean, that just would be very bad for healing. Post-surgery, like you need to walk around. I normally would take walks with my 2 nurses, but after they left, I started walking alone. And even if I walked alone, like while those 2 nurses were there, at least I would pass them in the hallways. But after they left, when I was doing my walks when I was alone, I didn't see anybody that I recognized, and I just felt so lonely, like more lonely than ever. Nobody smiled at me and nobody looked at me. Nobody asked how I was doing. Not being able to have visitors is one thing, but from the very moment that I like opened my eyes up until that point, I had gotten very comfortable with these two nurses, and they were like my everything there. It was almost an eerie feeling after they left. I did not like it. I was miserable. I wanted to go home so bad. I was feeling a little better. I was walking at turtle speed. Like, I still walk at turtle speed. Like, I'm literally disabled. But I felt like sort of okay enough, like I could go home. The only thing that was making me a little hesitant was that I was having that issue with like dehydration, and that I couldn't really get up to go to the bathroom all the time. Most of the times I was fine, but there was like that 1 or 2 times that happened that was like, okay, we need to keep an eye on that. And also I had a fever actually, which they were trying to monitor. So those were like the 2 main reasons that I couldn't leave the hospital yet. And also I needed to master my bag before I went home with it. So they made an exception for Brian, my boyfriend, to come in and visit. The only reason they let him visit was because we made a loophole basically saying he is here to help me learn my ostomy care. And they literally made him change the whole thing by himself. I could not even do that. And it was like my body. Isn't it normal to be more grossed out by other people's bodies than by your own? That's how I am anyway. So he was like doing all this stuff on my body, but he was not cringing. He was like, okay, what do I do next? And it was crazy. And I still wasn't watching, but he learned how to do it. The worst part about changing this thing is taking all the tape and stickers off. I'm such a baby when it comes to peeling tape off the skin, so that sucked. Like, there's this adhesive remover and you have to kind of rub it on the... It sucked. That was the worst part. He had to do that. And then it was naked. So obviously I don't control when I poop anymore. It just comes out whenever it has to. So when all the dressing was off and it was just like bare naked, like just my intestines sticking out of my belly, it fucking started pooping. If you've ever seen like an infant pee, it's like the tiniest little stream of pee. That is literally, I was laying on my back and literally there was a fucking fountain of shit pouring, like liquid shit. Oh my God. It was not a good time. So then after that, they teached him to clean the area. Basically just taking off all the adhesive from the tapes. And then he had to stick on all of the things and re-put the new tape in the new bag and whatever on. I was following along like by ear, but I wasn't watching. So if they told me, okay, your turn, do it by yourself, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But he was able to do it. So that was enough to get me released from the hospital. He was kicked out after a few hours because no visitors allowed. And I think that might have been it. I don't know if Bree came back that night one more time. All the days are like getting mixed up in my head. But basically everybody left me at the same time and it was really, really depressing. And what is the most crazy about this was that my surgery was on a Tuesday and I was told from the start it's a 3 to 5 day hospital stay. Saturday was the 5th day and the last day that I should have been in the hospital. So my dad flew into Vegas on Saturday, and this was pre-planned. He initially wanted to fly in and be with me at the hospital, but obviously since no visitors allowed, that didn't work. So he was like, okay, I'll just be with you the first week that you're at home. So he flew in on Saturday and I was expecting to leave on Saturday because that was the 5th day. My doctor came in, I think the day before, and I was like, when do you think I'll be able to leave? Like, I feel kind of good. Like, I feel like I should be able to go. And she's like, yeah, you can probably leave tomorrow. And I was like, okay, cool. So tomorrow came, and what sucks is I think I had either another fever that day or another problem with dehydration, and I really didn't feel good that day. And I was like, okay, maybe today's not looking so good. And my dad came, Brian picked him up and brought him back to our house. So ever since Saturday at 3 p.m., my dad and Brian were literally like living together at my house, just waiting for me to get home from the hospital. I ended up not being able to go home that day, which was sad. I think they said it was because of my fever. They kept saying every single day for another like maybe 3 days, no, you can't go home today, maybe tomorrow. They just kept pushing it back, back, back. And my dad was waiting, literally wasting his time at my house. He literally flew in from Florida, like across the country. And they said, we need to set up home health for you, which is just like a nurse that comes over to my house like twice a week to check on my bag and make sure that it's all good and help me change it and whatever. And they were saying, we can't let you go until we have that set up. And for some reason, we don't have that set up yet. That was on, I think, Saturday or Sunday that they started to make that known, that we were waiting on home health for me to go home. And they admitted that I was in good enough condition to leave. They were like, you're totally fine, you're all set, we just are waiting on this one phone call. The days passed so slowly, yet so quickly at the same time. The whole weekend was gone before we knew it. Brian gets the weekends off, my dad gets the weekends off. They both work Monday through Friday. So my dad was working from home at my house on the weekdays. So I was super excited about being able to go home on Saturday because both of them were going to be off that day and the next day. But both of those days I was stuck in the hospital. The following days, it was the same thing. They kept making excuses and saying, we can't find anybody. They're closed on the weekends. We need to wait until Monday or Tuesday or whatever day to get this set up. And I was like, that's literally crazy. Like, you guys should have had this figured out a while ago. Like, we shouldn't have to be waiting on this. I shouldn't have to be held hostage here. It wasn't until Tuesday that somebody came into my room, I think, and talked to me. And they were like, you know what? I feel so bad. I know that your dad is here. We're going to make an exception and we're going to let him visit. And at this point, my dad and I are pissed because literally Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we're on the 4th day now that my dad is at my house waiting for me to get home. He was only here for a week. So he came and that was really nice. And it was so relieving to be able to finally spend time with him. What really blew my mind, that made me just, I could not even comprehend. Like, it just made me so mad. The nurse came in and was like, we couldn't find anybody for home health, so we're just gonna send you home without it. So what that means is that I could have gone home without it days ago. What a waste. Literally like 4 extra days in the hospital waiting for something that wasn't even gonna end up happening. Oh my god, I was so mad. I was like, okay, like, whatever. So the ostomy nurse came in one more time and showed my dad how to do it, and I was watching and I learned how to do it, and my dad recorded it with my phone so that I could rewatch it for when I ever had to do it by myself, because since home health was out of the question now, I was gonna have to do it by myself twice a week. So we changed it one last time. My dad watched. He didn't touch it, but he watched. And then I think I was discharged. I think I had 1 IV left because the night before this, they took out my drain, and I believe they also took out my hand IV because I was like, I haven't even gotten any fluids in days. Like, I've been off the pain meds. That's like another reason I was so mad. I totally left this out of the story, but I had not taken any painkillers at all in like 2 or 3 days. I had IVs in my arms, but they weren't attached to anything. No saline, no fluids. Literally, they were not being used. So that's why I was so frustrated, like, about being stuck in the hospital, because I literally was getting nothing out of it. So they took out the remaining IV that was still up here. My arm was so swollen from that, and it stayed swollen, and it still hurts a little bit today. It's a week later, and there's still this one part on my arm right here. I feel a bump in there and it's sore, but I have footage of like right after they took it off, and you could see my skin was all bumpy and red and very, very irritated. My whole arm was swollen here. Like, it was so bad. Like, if I held my arms like this arm was very clearly like thicker. It was so gross. But that was it. And the taking off the tape was the worst part, as always. And I was like, oh my god, please don't put a band-aid on me. And they're like, you know what? You probably actually don't need one. Because they were about to put something on it. It just wasn't bleeding. So my dad took me home that day. I was so excited to finally leave. I was gonna surprise Brian because neither of us told Brian that I was coming home. I don't even think Brian knew that my dad was visiting me in the hospital, because Brian was at work when my dad came. So Brian just came home to an empty house, and I was assuming that Brian would probably think like, oh, he's probably just out getting food or something. So I was hoping that I could surprise Brian by coming home. whatever. So I was like walking up to my apartment and I heard Brian talking to somebody like very loudly. I was like, what the fuck? Like, who's he on the phone with? So I open up the door and he didn't even seem that surprised to see me. I was like, hi, like, hello, like. So he was like messing with his phone and propping it up against the wall, like clearly trying to record me. I figured he was FaceTiming somebody and that's who he was yelling at. And I was like, who the fuck are you on the phone with? Like, I'm so confused. Hi.
Rocky! Look at it. Rocky doesn't even care. Look.
Hi, honey. He just wants to go outside.
Oh, now you're leaking.
Shut up. Oh my god. That is not funny.
I gotta go get more stuff. She's got more bags.
Dude,
Sit down, relax.
my heart rate is so high. Who were you talking to?
Rocky.
Did you hear us?
Yeah,
Oh my
I
god.
got excited for him.
Oh, hi, darling. Hi. He probably smells me. He's probably like, ugh, you're gross. Look at this dude.
What a party. What a party. What is this cat doing?
If we
Rocky!
die, we die.
Oh, can you believe it? Dude, they wanted to keep her another day.
Yeah. No.
Well, God knows how long. I swear it was never gonna end.
It could have kept going.
Well, I understand now, more than ever, what the problem was.
What was it?
The problem is that this ostomy that she has is a big deal. And they want to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Like, they know that you saw how to do it, but they really wanted a professional to monitor it. And they couldn't find, well, yeah. I went through it too, dude.
You did?
Yep.
Oh shit.
I
He
was
didn't
fine.
do it. He just watched.
I didn't
He
do
had
it.
to
Really?
do it.
We have two professionals
He
now.
did
You
it.
did it?
Yeah.
You did it.
Yes, sir.
Dude, that's a whole
So
other level.
nonchalant. Yeah, I did it.
I'm a professional. What the? Where's the?
Well, she's got some rash going on from
heard,
all
yeah.
underneath all the adhesive.
I've heard, yeah.
And the person that just did it was very, very good, and she put a bunch of stuff on there, and she kind of built up like a little bit of a bandage. But that's what we need to keep an eye on.
Okay.
They said you really got to keep that. That's the only concern, is that skin doesn't start to break down, right, and start getting infected. So right now it's just a rash. Rocky,
He is not interested in me.
look at it.
Cause you abandoned him.
Right.
I'm so sorry.
Why would you do that?
Nuh-uh! Nuh-uh! Bitch, what? Since when?
Careful with her. She's busted up.
Where's your bag? What the hell?
Don't.
My
Just be
pocket.
careful. Nah, just.
Approach with
Careful.
caution.
Who went here? Today.
Yep.
Oh my
Weren't you supposed to be in like New York or something?
Yep.
Mel, and it's been so hard for me to not blow it. Yeah, I almost blew it so
Remember on the
many
phone
times.
earlier he was talking to Rocky?
What?
I said something like, "Don't do it."
Yeah.
And I
I was
go,
like,
"Oh."
That was probably the biggest, best surprise of my life. I was so happy to see him. So I was trying to surprise Brian by coming home, and they actually surprised me way more. The person that Brian was yelling at was my brother. He was like, oh my god, hide, like she's coming. So I was very happy. So my brother came in, I think it was the 28th. That was the day that I was discharged. And yeah, they had the whole thing planned out, and his birthday was on the 30th, his 21st birthday. So he flew in half for me and half to like be in Vegas on his 21st. So yeah, and then we all just chilled for the rest of the time. My dad took all three of us out downtown, old Las Vegas, and I was trying to keep up. I was walking, but slow. The thing that sucked is that I couldn't really go out to eat and eat like normal food like they could, because my diet with this thing is so insanely strict. and I'll have to show you the paper later, but the things that I could eat were so limited because there's an issue with like blockages with ileostomies. So if you eat certain foods, it could like clog the hole and mess everything up. So I had to be super careful about what I ate. So like we went out to eat and there was this whole big deal about like, oh my god, like what are you gonna order? What can you even eat? It was so annoying, but I had a fun time. And then we came home and we watched movies and we hung out and talked and played Minecraft. Overall, I had a very good time at home while they were visiting, but the hospital was a very bad time. So Alex left, I believe, the day after his birthday, and then my dad left like 24 hours later. Now it's just been me and Brian for a few days, and I have been on the couch every day watching Bob's Burgers all day, every night. That's like all I've been doing. I have like a bag of snacks on the coffee table, like Pop-Tarts and Oreos, lots of Cheeto Puffs, because those are so easy to digest. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like soft food. Yeah, just a lot of garbage that I've been stuffing my face with. And I really thought I was gonna lose weight from the surgery because I wasn't eating for the first few days. So I was like, oh my god, fun. I'm gonna have no appetite and I'm gonna starve myself and I'm gonna lose weight, but I'm still a fat piece of shit, just like I was before. Okay, I know people are gonna get mad about that. Sorry, my camera died, but I was saying that I still look the same that I did before I went into surgery, which is slightly overweight. So yeah, I've just been chilling. Like I have been sleeping on the couch every night ever since I came home from the hospital, I guess. And Rocky sleeps out there. It's so cute. I love him. But the bed is so uncomfortable for some reason. Like I really tried to sleep in bed. I think I moved from the couch to the bed one night and I couldn't do it. Like my back was hurting so bad. So the couch is my new home now. And I literally had to get up from there to film this video. So I have been filming for like over an hour and I really would like to stop filming right now because I'm bored out of my mind and I'm hungry. But I do want to talk about my diet really quick because I remember being super concerned pre-surgery about like when and what am I going to be able to eat. So basically what ended up happening was they put me on clear liquids the day of surgery. The same things that I could eat the day or two before surgery is the same stuff that I could eat the day or two after surgery. So yeah, just Jello, popsicles, water, just stuff that you could see through, like liquid. But I didn't. I literally just didn't have anything besides water. Nothing sounded good. Maybe the second day in the hospital, they moved me to full liquids, which is just like applesauce, pudding, not really like sloshy liquids, but thicker stuff. So I was eating a lot of pudding and they were just snack packs, like not even made in-house. It was still good though, but still didn't have much of an appetite. I just love pudding, you know what I mean? Like sometimes food just sounds good even though you're not hungry kind of thing. I was on full liquids for probably a good few days and it didn't bother me because I wasn't really hungry anyway. Like regular food didn't sound good. But then they moved me to GI soft, which is basically anything that you can cut with the side of a fork. So they gave me bread, they gave me brisket, which was really yummy with gravy. They gave me mashed potatoes, which were so good. Oh, you know what? The cottage cheese also slapped. Like that was in my top 3 favorite foods there. And my appetite picked up a little bit after the first few days, but the hospital food most of the time was so off-putting that I would like lift up the plate, look at it and put it back down and be like, I'm not eating that. Like, I'm sorry, that is just so gross. Like, I feel bad. Like, I know that there's a cook making it and I know that like it probably isn't all microwaved or frozen, but so often, like more than half the time that they brought me a food tray, I was sleeping and they wouldn't wake me up. So I would wake up to like a cold plate of food, literally more than half the time. They had a menu, and I'll show you the menu when I come across it, of like things that you could order through the phone, be like, hey, this is my diet, this is my room number, like this is what I want. They would give me my options. Sometimes they'd be like, okay, here are the things that you're allowed to have. But the things that I picked out that always sounded so good always ended up being so disappointing. Like blueberry muffin was on the menu and I was so excited for that, and it turned out to be like this pre-packaged, like moist in a bad way, like just processed as fuck muffin. Like so not what I was expecting. I was expecting like a bakery, like freshly baked, warm out the oven muffin, but it literally was like a room temp packaged mushy It was so not good. I got home and I was excited to eat like not hospital food, but also my list of restrictions was so crazy that I was afraid to like eat anything. I'm gonna stop recording though because my back hurts from sitting in this chair and I am getting antsy and I need to get up and eat and watch Bob's Burgers and not do this anymore. So I guess I'll see you some other time, question mark. I think I went over like pretty much everything, and I will definitely do a recording maybe later, maybe tomorrow, I don't know, of all of the paperwork and supplies that I got from the hospital. So yeah, I guess I'll just see you guys soon. I've been so burpy ever since the hospital. Oh my god, oh my god. Before I go, I have to say, I have not sneezed once since leaving the hospital because my body rejects it every single time because it's so painful. Like, breathing was an issue. Like, ever since surgery, I've been having a shortness of breath. Like, for a sneeze, you know how you're like, it stops there. Like, it literally, it hurts so bad that it won't happen. Other stuff has been kind of okay. That's the only thing that I can't do still. I still can't sneeze. During the first few days after surgery, coughing hurt so bad. Laughing hurt so bad. I think burping kind of hurt, but burping is good. You're supposed to burp a lot after surgery, and I still have been. I'm trying to remember what else. If I remember it later, I'll tell you. Okay, bye. I love you. I'll see you soon.